We are going to show you how to do a depth and spacing adjustment on the Hillman 4000 key machine. First thing you want to do is make sure you unplug the machine from the electrical outlet for your safety and wear a good quality pair of safety glasses. Next step, bring down your gauge fork in a resting position. To remove the large gray cover, you loosen up thumb screw located on the left side of the base, and there's also one located in the rear. Carefully remove cover, lift gauge fork out of the way in the up position, taking two identical alike key blanks. For an example, KW1s will work fine. Also, for good key cutting techniques, I would like to show you how to properly hold a key. By holding the thumb on the head of the key and your second finger in the back, using your index finger to put on the tip to steady key to make sure that the key lays flat inside the jaw. Push key into the shoulder till it stops, but always remember to back it off just a hair towards the left. Just tighten down. Take your left key, holding the same way, place it into the left jaw, slide in, feel it stop, back it off. Step 2, pull down your gauge fork. Push over keys to shoulder up tightly against the black inserts of the gauge fork up to the shoulders. Next, take your gauge fork and put it up out of the way. Now, what you want to do is you want to grab the carriage, red trigger, put it in the automatic mode, getting your pin underneath the pressure plate and resting the key against the cutter blade and the key tracer. You want the cutter and the key tracer in the middle of the key. For a machine to be correctly adjusted, what you will have is by rotating the brush downwards, the cutter will rotate and just barely kiss the top of the key, just removing some of the marker. If you're turning your brush downwards and the cutter will not turn and it's grabbing or hitting hard, that is cutting too deep. The next scenario would be if you rotate the cutter, the deburring brush downwards and the cutter is not touching the key, that is cutting too shallow. Now we will show you how to adjust the depth of cut. By taking your number 27 T-torque wrench, you want to loosen up the guide holding screw by opening it up. You want to see in the back here there is an adjustment wheel. Now this adjustment wheel is adjusted left or right. When you turn this adjustment wheel to the right, you are bringing the keys closer to the blade, and if you move it towards the left, you are bringing the keys away from the blade. Your objective is to adjust it where the cutter will turn downwards and just barely, lightly touch the top of the key and remove some marker. So simply after that adjustment is made, you want to tighten down your hold down screw on top securely. That holds the key tracer in place after adjustment. Bring down your keys in the rest position. You have now completed your depth adjustment, and now I will show you how to do the spacing adjustment. Now the spacing adjustment is done the same way with the keys in there. You want to pull down on your gauge fork. You want to make sure the keys are shouldered nice and tight and firmly. Lift up your gauge out of the way. Now you will notice that behind the cutter block, between the cutter and the pulley, you will see 3 screws. On the right hand side and the left hand side are torque tools screws that need the torque wrench number 25. they are supplied with your key machine. The first thing you want to do is you want to take your T25 wrench, you want to loosen up the left screw and then the right one. Next step is to take an Allen wrench, a 5/32, and you want to take your Allen wrench and remove the socket cap screw in the middle completely out. And with your kit, with your 2 wrenches, came a spreader screw. Place that spreader screw in the middle, turn it in all the way down, hand tight. What this does, the action of this will spread the block open for the cutter shaft and cutter to move for an adjustment. Next step, the key up to the cutter and guide, and what you want to do is you want the left key flat up against the side of the key tracer. The right key should be very close to the cutter but not touching. You should have a minimum of a sheet of paper clearance to a maximum of 2 sheets of paper clearance. You never want the cutter wheel to touch the shoulder of the key. So once you know what you have, and if you have a noticeable gap, then you have to readjust the spacing. Now that is done by taking the cutter and moving it over to the shoulder of the key and making sure your measurement is a distance of a sheet of paper or 2 sheets of paper maximum. Then once you have that set, you want to loosen up your spreader screw. You may put the carriage in a down position. Take your T25 torque wrench, tighten the left screw and tighten the right one. Now I would like to stress is do not over tighten these screws. Just a firm torquing of the screws is all you need. Then you want to replace the small socket cap screw by using your 5/32 Allen wrench and tighten securely. Next step would be to pull down your key gauge, replace cover back on machine by installing your thumb screw on the left side of the base and your thumb screw in the rear. Lift up gauge fork. You have now completed the 2 adjustments.